Welcome into Franchise Players here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. Joining us every Friday here in the Triad on your TGI Friday lineup here on WWBG 1470 AM. You can catch us every Friday at 5 p.m. If you missed it, you can catch it on WTOB in Winston-Salem, 96.7 FM and 980 AM. Loaded show today. David Glenn stopping by for his Sports Buffet bi-weekly panel. We'll talk about the new college football playoff alignment, the restart of the NBA season after All-Star break, and much, much more. Plus, we'll have Michael Davis on from Drop the Mic. We'll talk about the road to Wrestlemania, and he'll have an Elimination Chamber preview. But first, I am so happy we're at my alma mater right now, East Forsyth High School, and I'm so happy to introduce Taylor Williams, who is the very first women's wrestling state champion for a 165-pound level, correct? I've got her with us today, and I have an exclusive interview with her. What's going on, Taylor? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So I wanted to, I know you've got, the athletic director, Alan Plaster, told me on my way in that you've got a TV station coming in and you've got a bunch of people, trying to get at you and interview and things like that. Before we get into the segment that we're going to do today, how's it been since this past weekend, from the moment you won to now? What's life been like as a state champion?
It's been a lot of publicity, a lot of people, I guess, just trying to get my opinion on everything. I've already had like 3 or 4 interviews. Yeah. I have another one coming up. I know after I won semifinals, a Blueville coach came up to me, said he wanted to talk over the summer after my sophomore year. Ooh. And I got followed by this women's wrestling college, and they're scouting and recruiting for 2024. So
it's opened up a lot of eyes to what you can do. And I didn't realize, I asked you before we started, you're just a sophomore, so we got 2 more years of you here. Any plans to repeat maybe next year?
Most definitely. I want to try to get to a D1 college, and I also want to try to, I'm going to nationals this year, twice. In April and in July, just to see where I can improve and how I stack up nationally to get me ready for college wrestling.
That's awesome. Are there any places college-wise that are on your wish list right now that you'd like to go to? I know it's still early.
I haven't really looked into any. I know there's a good college, Iowa State. Mm-hmm. I know they have a women's program. They're really good right now. But I want to look into more colleges instead of just some of the traditional colleges that people know about when it comes to wrestling.
Taylor Williams here with us, state champion here at East Forsyth High School, first women's wrestling state champion in state history. Since your match ended first on Saturday, you have that distinction forever, so congratulations for that. I wanted to do our Get to Know You segment. For those familiar with Franchise Players and Tobacco Road Sports Radio, we've done this on the Pit Stop. We've done this on the Rundown. Bubba Wallace has been in this. Alex Bowman has done this before. Greensboro Swarm players have done this before. So you're joining in a very elite company, Taylor, today doing this segment with us. And what we do, we try to do an interview that's a little bit different than the traditional, how'd you get into wrestling, what's your favorite move, that kind of stuff that everyone else is going to ask you. We're going to ask you questions about you so we can get to know you a little bit better. So as we cheer you on over the next couple of years, your junior and senior year, we'll have a better idea of how you are off the mat. Does that sound cool? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this first question is going to set the tone for the entire interview. I've seen fights break out. I've seen all kinds of things happen because of this. Are you team flats or are you team drums?
Most definitely team flats.
Oh, no.
my brother, he agrees that drums is a lot better because it gives you more meat and you can...
So wait, are you team drums? I thought you said team flats.
No, I'm team flats. I'm talking about my brother.
Okay.
But flats, I don't know. I just like flats better.
What is it with flats? I don't understand flats, people. Like, I don't understand it. The drums are so much cleaner. You don't have to do all the work. Like, are you one of those... I've seen people where you can put like an entire flat like in your mouth and pull it out. See, that's what it is. The flat folks, that's what they like. Like able to do that kind of thing. Let's stay on the meal ticket here. It's lunchtime here over at East. What's after a match, after a long, grueling match? You've been waiting all day. You finally get through your match. You've won your competition. What is your favorite meal after competing?
Usually what I've been doing recently, just for something healthier, because I know my coach Sat, he likes to eat a lot healthier and stuff. Usually, I'd probably get something like a steak or probably want wings or something. But recently, I've been getting. There's a place, I think, I don't know where it's at. I can't tell you like a location or anything, but there's this place called Kava. It's like a Mediterranean Chipotle.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's the chicken place. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I get the, what's it called? I get the pita bread with the hummus. I get the regular hummus, and I get the harissa.
Where is that? I'm trying to think of where the closest one is.
I think they took down, what's it called? Zoe's Kitchen? Or whatever, and they replaced it.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Okay. I actually haven't tried that place before. Is it like rotisserie chicken or what? Like, it's not fried.
No.
Is it kind of like a grilled type chicken?
I think it's grilled. It's like
just good.
It's good. I know they have like pitas that you can put stuff in. They have regular bowls. They have pita bread.
Oh, okay.
And they make their own different types of drinks and stuff. I like the cucumber one.
Okay. I might have to check that out because I'm always looking for new places to eat. Lord knows I eat out way more than I probably should, but I need to start eating healthier. And they sound healthier from the outside driving by. They look healthier, so I should definitely check them out. Taylor Williams joining us here, state wrestling champion for the East Forsyth Eagles here on Franchise Players. It's funny because the way the question's phrased, it's your favorite TV show as a kid, but you're a sophomore. You're still technically a kid. So what's your favorite TV show right now?
I don't know. When I was a little kid, like elementary school, middle school, mm-hmm. I know I used to watch a lot of what's it called, Lion Guard and stuff. It's like a spinoff of Lion King.
Oh, okay.
I used to watch that. I used to watch DC shows like The Flash and
so
Arrow and stuff. But now,
a question for you later on.
Ever since COVID hit, I think it was my sister and my brother. They're both. One just turned 13. The other one's turning 14 in September. They got me into anime.
Oh, okay.
And so I know Jujutsu Kaisen is going really good right now. That's probably been my favorite one so far.
Is Dragon Ball Z still a thing?
People know about it, but if you didn't really watch it back when it was really popular, most people don't really try to watch anymore because it's so long.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's so complicated at this point that it's probably hard to get in from the very beginning.
I think if they revamped it and made it shorter, a lot of people will watch it.
Oh, trust me, everyone eventually they run out of ideas and revamp everything. So I'd imagine eventually we'll see a brand new Dragon Ball Z starting soon. Beach or mountains?
Oh, that's hard because I'm actually afraid of heights and open ocean.
See?
I think I'd probably pick the beach.
Okay.
Just because I feel like even if you're far away, you can get to stuff easier. And I think it's a better scenery than just seeing mountains and trees and stuff. I think if I wanted to live somewhere peaceful, I'd pick the mountains and stuff. But I think for the scenery and just to get out more, I'd pick the beach.
Any beach in particular?
No, I haven't been to a lot of beaches. I know I've been to Carolina Beach.
Yeah, that's
I've been to, I think, a different beach when I was younger, when I was a baby.
Okay.
But I don't really remember going to a lot of beaches and stuff.
What's your, outside of wrestling, what's your favorite sport to watch?
My favorite sport to watch is probably football. I used to play football, so it's a really familiar sport for me.
So that leads me into my question. Who is your favorite athlete of all time so far?
Actually, my favorite athlete, I think, is in football, since we're on it.
In general? Yeah, it can be anybody.
I have a lot, but I think the one I followed the most is probably Stephen Curry, because I like the Warriors too. They're my favorite basketball team. I've liked them since I was a little kid. We went to a Mavericks versus Warriors game when Seth Curry was still with the Mavericks, because we used to live in Texas.
Okay.
And my mom went to Arlington University, and so we went to that, and she thought the Mavericks were going to win, and I thought the Warriors were going to win.
Yeah.
So I've stuck with the Warriors ever since, and Stephen Curry is just a player I follow.
So you redeemed yourself in my eyes with the team drums, team flats comment with that, because Steph is one of those players where I'm a Warriors fan too. I'm really more of a bigger Steph Curry fan, and in the NBA, especially now, for me, it feels like I follow players more than teams. So because there's so much moving around or whatever. But with Steph, I find myself watching Steph the whole game, even when he doesn't have the ball. Like, because he runs constantly throughout the game. So it's just fascinating to me to watch him get open. And he probably runs 4 or 5 miles a game, just literally every play, just running until he gets open, and then he shoots it. And the dude's range is out the parking lot. Like, it's insane watching him. Have you seen his warm-ups before? Like when he's shooting from like the crowd or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's different. I hope that he gets a chance to come home like Seth did and play in Charlotte now at the end of his career. It's not going to happen, but we can always dream that maybe we can get him here before it's over. Winter or summer? Which one are you? Are you a winter person or a summer person?
I honestly, they're both my favorite seasons. I can't stand the fall and spring.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. But I think I picked the summer because I'm a summer baby.
Okay.
I feel like I like the winter. It's really weird because I like the winter, and I just don't like when it's super cold. But I think the aesthetic about winter.
Yeah.
But I don't like how cold it is, like the 20 degrees and stuff. I'm not a big snow person. Like, I mean, I can enjoy the snow, but if it's like how it is in like some places like Michigan and stuff, and other places where it just piles up 12 feet of snow, 7 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow, it's like, no, that's enough. And then since East is an outside campus, I was like, if it snows this year and I have to walk to my classes in snow, I'm not doing it.
Well, you said you're from Texas, right? Mm-hmm. So you didn't really see a whole lot of snow to begin with.
Mostly ice.
Yeah, so when you moved up here, you moved at the right time. Actually, I think maybe y'all scared the snow away because we haven't had any snow in like 2 years. The last time we had snow, I don't even remember the last time we had snow.
The last time we had snow, I think I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
I had my dog, and since he was a puppy at the time, it was the first time he had seen snow, and he loved it.
Yeah, my dog loves it too, but it's so rare. And we're already in the end of February, and we haven't had any ice like this winter. So, global warming. Let's go back to the wings. I don't know why I always do these interviews at lunchtime because I always pepper in all these food questions in there. Going back to the wings, what's your favorite hot wing flavor? This always tells a lot about a person. Think about it now.
I think I like I forgot where I went, but I like these. I think it was something habanero wings.
Mango habanero.
Mango habanero.
You know what?
Wings.
Every time I ask that question, that's the number one answer. That's the number, and I never get it. I never get that flavor. Maybe I need to. What is it? Like a sweet kind of.
Yeah, it's like sweet, and it's not spicy to the point where you're like, oh, that's hot. It just has like, it's not like spice. It's not spicy, but it just has spice. Okay,
it's a little bit of kick to it, like in the back. I do like the sweet, kind of a kick to them type of flavors. I'm a garlic parm guy. Like that's my go-to. Garlic parm and lemon pepper are the two I go to the most. TikTok or Twitter? TikTok. What is it about TikTok that's so... I see my wife goes down these rabbit holes on TikTok for like days.
I'll be watching something and I won't even realize how much time passes. But I think TikTok is just easier to navigate, and you can find so much more on there. Like Instagram is cool and all, but like you can go to the search and search something up, and it'll show you everything except for what you look for. But same thing. Well, you can get the same thing on Twitter, but
Twitter's kind of changed a little bit the past couple of years, where it's not exactly. I got locked out of my account a couple of Saturdays ago. Somebody figured out how to get into my account, and they started spamming Bitcoin stuff out of it, and I couldn't get access back to it. Twitter wouldn't believe that I was me. Like when I sent in my stuff, they're like, "Well, we can't prove you're you, so we just suggest you make another account." I'm like, "Wow, really?" And now somehow I go back to check, they've blocked me, whoever took my account over. And now I have a blue check mark, and I have no idea like how that happened, or why all of a sudden I have a blue check mark, or why that account's even up still. But Twitter's tripping right now. You mentioned DC earlier in this conversation. I love it because I'm a comic book nerd to heart, and I actually wrote this question down here. If you could be any Marvel superhero, who would you choose and why?
I think honestly, I'd probably choose Doctor Strange.
Okay, that's a good one.
It was a close one between Doctor Strange and Iron Man, but I think I'd choose Doctor Strange just because I think the thought of having that type of magic is kind of cool. Like, if you need to do something extra, I know it's a bad way to use it, but like using the time stone and like going back in time to have more time to do stuff.
I'd love to be able to do that.
I mean, just avoiding trouble and stuff. Like if your mom, like something simple. If your mom tells you to do something and she's pulling up and you haven't done it, or you realize what time it is and what time she said she'd be home.
Just turn it back and
get it done.
That's with great power comes great responsibility, though, right?
Yeah.
And then final question here, since you are still technically a student, Taylor, who's your favorite teacher so far here at East Forsyth? Now, I don't want to cause any trouble. So the teachers that are listening, if she picks one and it's not you, it's okay. So go ahead.
I think it's really close. My coach is not included because I feel like that's a bit biased. Yeah. I think my favorite teacher, has to be, Mr. Thomas and Mr. Santiago, because I had Mr. Thomas last year, and my coaches even told me he's not really one that's big on like following students everywhere, but when I think he saw the potential I could have for wrestling and stuff, and just as a person, and he's been helping me throughout this year. He's been monitoring me, helping me stay in check and stuff. And same thing with Mr. Santiago. They're both friends with my coach Askew, so they know me through him. But I go and visit their classes sometimes, and I'm just grateful that they've been following me and stuff.
Okay. And then I got another side of curiosity with you wrestling. Do you watch WWE?
No.
No? Do you have any interest in doing things like that? Like after college, we talked about, you going on to wrestle in college or whatnot. And then after that, is there any interest in doing anything like in sports entertainment or something like that down the road?
My focus has been on the Olympics.
Okay.
But I'd be open to probably doing like MMA or UFC or something.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's just the only thing is that I feel like I'd be so used to wrestling, I wouldn't want to take a hit to like the jaw.
I was going to say that's a little different. That's a little bit more,
I think I'd probably stick with the Olympics because some of those people be getting messed up.
Yeah. Well, a lot of, it feels like now, especially in WWE, with their performance center and stuff down in Florida, they take a lot of wrestlers like that wrestled in college or wrestled in high school or wrestled abroad or whatnot and bring them in and kind of do them that way. And the women's side in particular has exploded the past 15 years. So that might be an avenue down the road to follow, but definitely the Olympics. That's something huge. What cycle are you looking at to maybe try to compete there? Because when's the Olympics? The Olympics is in 2 years, so that's too soon. Would it be the cycle after?
I think the Summer Olympics is this year. I can't remember which one.
This is 2020.
Yeah, 2024. One of them is this year.
Yeah,
because they switch them off.
Yeah, and I think they skipped 2020 because of COVID, and they moved it to 21, but it stayed at 24. So yeah, I think you're right. So I think it is this summer. So yeah, okay. So that's Taylor Williams, brand new state champion, 4A state champion in women's wrestling. Won it last weekend here for East Forsyth. And I just wanted to say we're very, very proud of you. With me being an alumni here, I just hosted the Hall of Fame athletic banquet a couple of weeks ago here at East Forsyth. We do so much stuff here at East. Tobacco Road has been extremely grateful to Coach Plaster and all the coaches and staff to give us access to the players and the coaches and the events. We just did the East Forsyth Mount Tabor game last night. We won't talk about the results of that, but and we're doing baseball and softball here a little bit later on. So just happy to have you in the fold. Congratulations, Taylor, and much success to you going forward. And I look forward to watching you over the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Coming up, David Glenn. He'll come in and do Sports Buffet with us. We got a lot to tackle, a lot of stuff here. NBA, college basketball, and much more. You're listening to Franchise Players here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and WWBG 1470 AM.
Franchise players are often referred to as the face of the franchise.
Welcome back into Franchise Players here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. You can catch us every Friday as part of the TGI Friday lineup on WWBG 1470 AM out in Greensboro. If you miss it there, you can catch it on WTOB 980 AM, 96.7 FM at 6 p.m. in Winston-Salem. Joining us right now in his bi-weekly joint through Franchise Players is David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network. You can follow his work at northcarolinasportsnetwork.com as well as their YouTube channel. DG, what's happening, brother? How you doing, man?
I am doing great, Des. Always good to be with you.
So, we always do the sports buffet with DG, and sometimes we'll have guest hosts sitting in his spot, but that's his thing here, and it gives me an opportunity to bounce around to multiple topics while I've got him on the air with us. And I got to start off with our Charlotte Hornets. I rarely get a chance to start off with Charlotte. So I want to take advantage of it. They have won 4 straight after coming back from a really long All-Star break. And we'll touch on All-Star weekend here in a second too. Long All-Star break. They came back Thursday night and defeated the Utah Jazz on the road for their 4th straight. Since really, they haven't lost since they pulled the trigger on those trades at the trade deadline for Grant Williams and Seth Curry and Davis Bertrand and those guys. What do you think is happening here that's been so different for the Hornets? Still, if I'm not mistaken, still without Mark Williams, back issues. I don't believe LaMelo Ball has come back yet either with his ankle. So they don't have 2 of their normal 5 starters. What's the difference in these Hornets right now after those trades?
I think Miles Bridges is playing really, really well. He has had a complicated life off the court, obviously, and he was actually great in that Utah game with 26 points and 14 rebounds. You know the deal, man. When the Hornets, at rare times in their history, have just a couple of the better players in the NBA, hasn't happened often, but if you have Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning at the same time, you're relevant in a way that the Hornets have not been very often.
Yeah.
And when Ball is healthy, that doesn't explain this recent run, but when Ball is healthy, and of course Bridges is under contract, and Brandon Miller is a young star who also had a good game against the Utah Jazz in that win you mentioned and has played well during this winning streak, you're at least getting closer to having a nucleus under contract that can give fans some optimism toward next year. And I don't know how often we've said Hornets fans were optimistic looking into a season, but with those building blocks plus a healthy Mark Williams down low, at least you could view the Hornets as a potential playoff candidate next season, which is not something I would have said going into most of the last half a dozen years.
Yeah, and that core is what I'm trying to figure out now because it's kind of turned it on its head. Grant Williams feels like he's almost like the middle linebacker for their defense. Their defense is so much better with them on there. Of course, Seth Curry playing at home. I saw he's wearing number 30, which was his dad's Dell, his jersey when he played for Charlotte. So that is a feel-good story too, and he seems to be playing well. They just seem to be more organized. And I saw a comment from Miles Bridges from post-game last night where he was basically saying, the biggest difference is that Charlotte was down 94-88 in that game and then went on a 14-0 run in the 4th to take a 102-94 lead with about 5 minutes remaining. And Bridges was like, earlier in the year, we would have just gave up and let them run away with it. Yeah. But he said, and I quote, "But we've got veteran guys in our locker room now, winning players, and we got it done," unquote. I don't think that's necessarily a shot towards a Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward, who were vets that were here, but they simply hadn't really won anything in their careers, really. I know Rozier was with the Celtics, and they did a little playoff run when he was there, and I think the same with Hayward in Utah. But again, I understand what he's saying. Terry Rozier kind of said something similar in Miami when he left Charlotte that first week. He was like, is this a different locker room here where the vibe is that they expect to win, where in Charlotte they were expecting to lose, and it was kind of infectious. So maybe they're turning a page a little bit here in terms of what they can be. They do have a very interesting young nucleus. I will say out loud, I'm very worried about Mark Williams because when you have back injuries, that typically doesn't go the other direction. Usually it keeps going one way, and he's so young. So we'll keep an eye on that. Your thoughts on the All-Star game? Because we've heard pretty much a consensus that it was horrible. It's funny, DG. I actually landed on it by accident at the very beginning of the game. Sunday night, there wasn't really anything on. Of course, football's over with. Wasn't any college basketball or anything like that going on. And I landed on it, and I was sitting there for a minute, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. And I literally left like 3 minutes after I got there. I didn't even watch a single minute of the game. And then the next morning, I see the highlights, and the Eastern Conference scored 211 points in an All-Star game. It looked like there was no defense. Can they fix this? Is there a way to fix the NBA All-Star game in your mind?
There are ways to experiment for sure, but I feel the way you felt. In fact, with the exception of the Major League Baseball All-Star game, which I do watch sometimes as a guy who grew up as a baseball player, and that was kind of the first sport that I fell in love with, and there have been some good baseball All-Star games, I really don't get into the Pro Bowl in the NFL. I really don't get into the NHL All-Star game. Sometimes the skills competitions in basketball or hockey or even football now can be intriguing. But the games themselves get to the point where they stop looking like the actual sport.
Yeah.
If you truly play matador defense in hockey or football or basketball, it stops looking like the sport. And everybody loves a good dunk or an alley-oop or whatever, but I think people can even hit a saturation point when it comes to those things, or the 30-foot three-pointer. Like, they're all fun. They're spectacles. It's amazing, and these are incredible athletes, these NBA guys. But, you know, one option is to put a financial incentive out there. If you, whether it's to line your pockets or line the pockets of your favorite charity, you know, the losing team gets X donated per player, and the winning team gets a lot more than X. 10 times X. I don't know what those numbers are, but it's a shame that it always has to boil down to money. But whether it's money or something else, you have to incentivize effort. And right now, there's no incentive to defend, in part because nobody wants to get hurt. And, you know, nobody wants to be the one guy that slows down this circus-like spectacle of dunks and three-pointers and other offensive fireworks.
Minnesota's Anthony Edwards, one of the rising stars in the league, he commented that it would take $1 million from to compete in the slam dunk contest. Stephen A. Smith had a take earlier this week that LeBron James has basically single-handedly destroyed the dunk contest by not participating in it. And I thought back on it, and I'm like, you know what? He's kind of right, because he kind of made it not very important to him in terms of resume, where when I was a kid, if you were one of the top stars in the league, that was like the de facto like event. You had to at least compete in it. Whether it was Jordan or Dominique Wilkins, or even later on Kobe Bryant participated in it, and LeBron's never done it. And because of it, I think we're going to get robbed. We're never going to see John Morant in a dunk contest. We're never going to see Zion Williamson in a dunk contest. Like, if it was Anthony Edwards, Zion Williamson, and John Morant in the slam dunk contest on Saturday night, that's pretty good stuff. Like, I'm staying up to watch that. But they don't have an interest in watching it because their idol is LeBron James, you know, and he never did it. So if it's not important to him, why should they do it? And the risk of being embarrassed, because the past couple of years, really after the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine dunk contest, the first one, they just haven't really, that might have been the peak, because I don't know what they could do to top that one. But the 3-point contest, that's pure. So that kind of stays pretty relevant. And that seemed to be the crown jewel of the weekend, was the 3-point contest and the Sabrina Ionescu versus Steph Curry duel, which was pretty fun. But yeah, the All-Star game, I saw somebody mention maybe going like the way of the Big Three and do 3-on-3 tournaments where stars can pick 2 players from off the roster. They compete against each other. The winning 3-man team gets a pie of money of whatever, and maybe that works. But I honestly don't know if it's fixable. I haven't watched it. I think the last All-Star game I watched, Kobe Bryant was still playing. It's the one where LeBron had the shot and he decided to pass it, and they all came, him, Carmelo, and all came over to him like, why did you pass the ball? Or whatever. That's like one of the last times I ever watched the All-Star game. So got David Glenn with us here from the North Carolina Sports Network. Go follow their work at northcarolinasportsnetwork.com. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. College Football Playoff Committee made big noise this week, going to a 5+7 college football playoff model. It was 6-6 before, but of course, with the implosion of the Pac-12, there aren't 6 major, or there aren't 5 major conferences anymore. It's really 4. So it's the top 4: SEC, Big 12, Big 10, ACC, plus the highest ranked group of 5 conference will get those first slots. I'm happy they're moving to 12. I love the format, I like everything about it. But this made me question the relevancy of Notre Dame at this point, because I heard this earlier this week, and I hadn't really thought about it, but Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship in like 36 years. They've been in the national championship, have gotten blitzed when they got there. Is this college football basically saying Notre Dame is not Notre Dame anymore? We don't have to cater to Notre Dame. Notre Dame needs to cater to us, because if you don't know, you can't get a bye unless you're in those first 4 slots. You can't get one of the first 4 slots unless you're a conference champion. Notre Dame is an independent, and a proud one at that. They are not in a conference, but if my understanding is correct, if they choose to join a conference for football, the ACC has first dibs. So your thoughts on all this and how it affects Notre Dame going forward? Because it felt like it was kind of them pointing at Notre Dame like, you need to choose. Like, what are you guys going to do going forward?
Yeah, part of Notre Dame's agreement with the Atlantic Coast Conference is that if the Irish give up their football independence, they will do so with the ACC. That promise is all the way through 2036, just like the length of the grant of rights and other important things that we've been following in the FSU ACC dueling lawsuits. But what's interesting about this new playoff format is we've talked about this topic before, Des, but there's basically three reasons that Notre Dame has insisted on its football independence. I should say three factors that could change their desire to remain independent. And this is out of the mouths of their athletic directors, not my speculation. They've always said they need a home for all their other sports. If that were jeopardized, that could change their mind. Of course, they're safe because they're an ACC member in all those other sports.
Yeah.
If their financial TV deals ever were going down or were otherwise not as lucrative, that would make them re-examine joining a conference. That's not in play right now because the NBC deal is well into the future and it's a very lucrative deal. The third prong that they've always said, if our road to a national championship were jeopardized, that is the only other thing that when they poll their own fan bases, a huge percentage cherish their football independence for a lot of different reasons, history, scheduling, etc. Now, imagine if Notre Dame goes 12-0 in the regular season and their fans see them as the 5 seed in a 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
That's not going to go over well.
No.
You do not get the same bump that a 12-0 team in a conference would get, assuming that team wins its conference title game, etc. So, because it's a 12-team bracket, at least for now, the door is not shut on the Irish. They can still get in. The question becomes, how much are they bothered by a more difficult road than they would get if they somehow ran the table, as a member of a conference? I don't think it'll be enough to get them to change their football independence, but it is one of the three things they've mentioned all along as exactly the elements that they look at when it comes to jeopardizing that independence.
David Glenn joining us here on Franchise Players here in the Sports Buffet. I do feel like if I'm the ACC, now's the time to strike. Now I'm on the phone with Notre Dame every morning. Look, let's figure something out where you can still keep your TV deal with Peacock. If I'm not mistaken, Notre Dame, they have pockets of games where they're not all shown on Peacock, and then ESPN or ABC or whoever, they scramble to try to get those. Have something figure out where those games come to the ACC and they can put that on ACC network, and that's extra revenue. Now you can go to ESPN and renegotiate some things. And I feel like if you can get Notre Dame in as a full-fledged member, the Florida State stuff, the Clemson stuff, them moving out, whatever, that goes away. Because at that point, the league is at what? Because you're bringing in 3 more teams next year. 18? We'd be at 18 teams if Notre Dame came in. And something else I was thinking about too, what if that's one of the reasons why they brought in Stanford? Because it didn't really make any sense on the surface to bring them in. But Stanford's a natural rival to Notre Dame, and they're always scheduling against each other. If they're in the same conference, that makes it a little bit easier to schedule. So maybe there was some reasoning that if we bring in one of their rivals, it's a little bit easier for them to go, okay, we'll still have this Stanford rivalry here. And when they were in the league in 2020, it worked out. Their argument didn't really work. They made it to the college football playoff. They were one of the top teams in the country. So I don't know. Again, going back to the beginning of this, Notre Dame's not really relevant in my mind anymore because last time they won a national championship, Rocket Ismail was running back, touching Tim Brown. And I was watching that team. Yeah, that was a while ago. That was Lou Holtz coaching that team. So before I get you out of here, though, I want to talk about the ACC hoops. Big weekend for the Big Four. Got some big matchups to talk about here. Starting off 2:00 p.m. on ESPN on Saturday. This is a big one, actually. 8th ranked Duke. They're 12-3 in the ACC. They're tied with Carolina, but really they're a half game back because Carolina has the tiebreaker. Taking on a Wake Forest team that's 9-6 in the ACC. I believe they've only lost once at home. They have an incredible home record underneath head coach Steve Forbes. That's a sneaky game for Duke, in my opinion, especially with it being at the Joel. Thoughts on that one? And Wake needs that win. They need that win a lot more than Duke does in terms of they seem pretty secure. I know that win, that blowout they had the other night pushed them up the net, which I still can't figure the net out. And maybe Wake has because Wake's been blowing people out and they keep moving up every time they do. They moved up to into the the top 30, if I'm not mistaken, in the net. So
Correct.
they can't afford to lose it. But if they can win against Duke at home, that's a quad 1 win for them. Can Wake beat Duke? Because Duke is playing really well right now.
Yeah, Duke is playing well. I think the Devils are 16-2 in their last 18 games, but they are a young team, the Blue Devils, and they have not played quite as well on the road as they have played at home. And as you mentioned, Wake has been one of the best teams at home in the entire ACC this season. I just had Hunter Salas, who's going to make the All-ACC team, on the David Glenn show this week, and we talked about that home court advantage at the Joel. And I believe the Deeks, as we speak, are 14-0 at home this season, the only undefeated home team in the entire ACC, and among only, a relatively small number nationally. So Steve Forbes over 4 years has been good at home. Steve Forbes this season has been at his best at home. And I think the Deeks are for real. The challenge, though, Des, as all these conspiracy theories are flying around that, the bracketologists are disrespecting the ACC and the selection committee has been disrespecting the ACC. Here's the bottom line. Wake has exactly 2 victories over teams that we know are going to make the NCAA tournament. They beat the Florida Gators and they beat the Virginia Cavaliers. Now, they have other nice wins. They just crushed Pitt, right? They beat Virginia Tech. They beat Miami. They beat Syracuse. Yeah. But when you are in late February and you only have 2 wins over teams that are guaranteed to make the NCAA tournament, you need to upgrade your resume. Otherwise, you could still make it, but you're begging to get in.
Yeah.
Take the begging out of the equation. Take all the conspiracy theories out of the equation. You got to either beat Duke and Winston-Salem this weekend or beat Clemson and Winston-Salem later this season. Those are your last 2 chances in the regular season for a signature victory. And again, it's not bias. It's not anti-ACC bias. You need more than 2 wins.
You really do.
Like that is not a new concept. You need wins over tournament caliber teams. And as much as I respect the Deacon season, heck, I like Andrew Carr. I like Boopy Miller. I like Cam Hildreth. I like Efton Reed, man. It's a fun team to watch. But what does the committee start with? What are your best wins?
Yeah.
And all of those best wins, by the way, were at home. The Deeks just do not have valuable road wins other than Florida, valuable non-conference wins. And beating either Duke or Clemson, I think, would take them from this daily bubble status to something where they can actually exhale a little bit when they head to the ACC tournament.
Clemson's kind of one of those weird teams in the middle of the pack of the ACC where they came in red hot non-conference and kind of tailed off a little bit. Feels like they've kind of righted the ship a little bit now. They're 8-7 in the ACC. They take on Florida State 7:45 p.m. I believe I want to say it's a CW game since it's 7:45. They have weird start times. 2:00 p.m. on ACC Network before I get you out of here. Boston College visiting NC State. NC State, they desperately need a win. I'm hearing Kevin Keats on the hot seat at this point. They just haven't really turned the corner. I think a lot of people expected NC State to be next up after Roy Williams retired, Coach K retired. Keats kind of knows the portal, knows how to get around that kind of thing. And it feels like they're just kind of standing in place, really. And then you've got the big one at 4:00. 10th ranked North Carolina travels to Virginia. Virginia, I can't figure. Virginia feels like Virginia when they can't score. That's pretty much because other than 2018, 2019, when they had like 3 NBA first rounders playing and they could score, like DeAndre Hunter and those guys, they're right back to where they were. 45-point games, can't score. It's a rock fight. You're playing in mud type thing. I'm kind of expecting that for them tonight or Saturday versus Carolina. Give me who's your key player to watch for Carolina to get out of Charlottesville with a win, because it is a tough place for Carolina to play. It's not been kind to the Tar Heels as of late.
It is. Armando Bacot at times has been able to really pound the Cavaliers inside. They do have obviously great defensive players, but neither Ryan Dunn, a forward, or Reese Beekman, a guard, is going to be on Armando Bacot very much. So the Heels need to go back to their old school, pound it down low. And then if Bacot gets double teamed, he's become much better at passing out of the double team and finding that open man for a 3-point shooter. But UVA, remember, just had the nation's longest home winning streak. The Cavs had won 23 in a row at the JPJ until Pitt beat them within the last week or so.
Pitt's another one of those teams, yeah.
Yeah, and the Cavs, the Heels this Carolina team is playing better defense than most Carolina teams we've seen in the last 20 years. And because Virginia at times really loses its confidence offensively, the Heels have to try to expose that. I mean, Virginia's going to make the NCAA tournament, but they've been blown out of a lot of games, mostly on the road. For whatever reason, they just play a lot better at home, and the Heels have to go to Charlottesville, as you said. But yeah, RJ Davis outside, and Armando Bacot inside, and then D up. The way the Heels, I think, have played as well defensively as anybody in the ACC this season, including Virginia. That's the recipe to get a win. But as you said earlier, where Wake needs the win over Duke even more than Duke needs that win, I think UVA needs the win over Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Even more than Carolina needs the win, because the Heels are up there on that 2-seed line and the Devils are up there on the 3-seed line. Teams like Virginia and Wake, they're in a nice place, but they need to win to become in a comfortable place.
And I did see this morning, I guess Arizona lost late last night. So I've seen some people flip Carolina to that last 1 seed, and Arizona's the top 2 seed now. So the next 2 weeks are going to be super important. Of course, Carolina still has a tilt with Duke a weekend from this one upcoming, and then the ACC tournament itself. So we'll get into all that and more. Follow DG on Twitter at David Glenn Show. Go check out their work on their YouTube channel at North Carolina Sports Network. Brand new interviews up right now for the David Glenn Show. And DG, always a pleasure to have you, man.
Always fun, Des. Keep up the good work. Good to be with you.
Coming up, Drop the Mic host Michael Davis will give us a WWE Elimination Chamber preview. Back in just a bit, franchise players here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
In professional sports, a franchise player is an athlete who is not simply the best player on their team, but one that the team can build their franchise around for the foreseeable future.
Welcome back to Franchise Players here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Appreciate David Glenn stopping by for his bi-weekly Joint to the Sports Buffet. And, of course, shout out to East Forsyth's Taylor Williams, the first women's wrestling champion, 4A division, first women's wrestling champion in state history since her match ended first at Coliseum last week. She's the answer to a trivia question. So shout out to East Forsyth sophomore Taylor Williams, who won the women's wrestling state championship last weekend and was with us earlier in the show. Joining us right now is the Drop the Mic podcast host, Michael Davis. And I like to bring in my WWE folks whenever we're close to a pay-per-view. WWE Elimination Chamber this Saturday, 5 a.m. from Perth, Australia. For those stressing about having to get up at 5 a.m., just wake up when you wake up and watch it then, because nothing's going to be spoiled between now and then. Just don't get on Facebook or Twitter before you start watching it, probably. Mike, what's happening, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I mentioned that on Drop the Mic. I'm like, the hardest thing to do is to not look at your phone immediately.
Yeah, when you first wake up. Yeah, just don't even look at it. Just get up.
I'm telling you, if you're listening to the show and you text me a spoiler, we're not friends. We're not friends.
JP Mundy, wherever you are, do not text me spoilers for this, because he's the type that will text me spoilers at 6. He'll wake up at 6 a.m. just to text me a spoiler and go back to sleep. So let's look at the rundown of the matches here. Let's start off before we get to Elimination Chamber matches. The Women's World Championship match, Rhea Ripley champ versus Nia Jax. Your thoughts on this matchup and how it's going to go?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious how it's going to go. I don't see Rhea Ripley dropping the championship this close to WrestleMania. But it was interesting last night during the press conference. They had a press conference in Australia at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's that's another thing you got to get used to. Nia Jax actually mentioned she was born in Australia.
Really?
So, yeah. So it's like hometown versus hometown. But I still feel like Nia Jax is going to get booed because everybody loves Rhea. That is Rhea's hometown, where she grew up and everything. I don't see Rhea losing this title anytime soon.
It feels like they're building to Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, and we'll get to the Elimination Chamber match in just a bit. The Undisputed Tag Team Championships, Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest taking on British Strong Style.
Yeah, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate. I love the work they were doing. went to Charlotte a couple weeks ago for Friday Night SmackDown and got to see them defeat DIY, or as R-Truth calls them, DX.
R-Truth on some other stuff.
R-Truth, by the way, is 55 years old and still looks like
wow.
That's incredible.
Man, Ron Killings. He's been around forever too. People forget he was an NWA world champion. Like the stuff he does in WWE is all comedic now, but he was out there like for a while. But yeah, he's still looking for Nick Mysterio and
Tom. Where's Tom?
But yeah, do you think title changes hands here, or Judgment Day goes to WrestleMania as tag champs?
I don't think the titles change hands here. I hope they eventually split these tag titles up, but the way that I'm seeing it going, and you guys can keep the receipts for in 6 weeks when I'm right, I feel like Judgment Day retains here, and as a result, they get the Miz and R-Truth actually gelling as a tag team. So it's Judgment Day versus Awesome Truth at WrestleMania, and hopefully R-Truth gets his well-deserved WrestleMania moment because he's never had one.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. So, I don't know. I have a theory about what they're going to do with Rock and Roman Reigns. We'll get to that in just a bit, though. But I think it's going to have to do with the tag titles, too. This just added the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. The Kabuki Warriors, the champs, taking on Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. That's on the kickoff show.
Yeah,
that's going to be a squash, I think.
Yeah. Indy Hartwell is a Australian as well, so she'll get to perform in front of her hometown crowd. But yeah, it's probably not going to look as good for her as it does Rhea Ripley. I don't think Indy gets the hometown. Oh my gosh, we had the Cinderella win because, dude, who's stopping Asuka and Kairi Sane? Like, for real.
Yeah, they're both nuts. And they're kind of bringing some prestige to the tag titles. Looking to see who they build. Maybe Bianca and Jade Cargill. Maybe they build those two together to take them on at WrestleMania. Who knows? Then you get I think the Grayson Waller effect with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Do you expect any surprises on this? Rock claims he is not going to be anywhere near Australia for this event. Roman Reigns does not want to go to Australia for this event. Could Paul Heyman make an appearance, or the Bloodline make an appearance during this segment?
Yeah, I've went back and forth on this. Like, I've been like, okay, you can surprise the Australian fan base, but wouldn't you want to promote The Rock showing up, or wouldn't you want to promote Roman Reigns showing up?
Right.
So that's my thing. If Seth Rollins is there and Cody Rhodes is there, I could see Paul Heyman coming in to stir the pot a little bit, or maybe even Jimmy Uso before Solo Sikoa comes in and attacks, but isn't successful. Yeah. And Seth and Cody like stand tall at the end.
Yeah, because I thought they could maybe even throw in, because neither Cody or Seth are wrestling at this event. I thought maybe they might throw in a surprise with Seth and Cody versus Jimmy and Solo or something like that, like as a tag match or something that gets built up from the Waller effect thing. And maybe that does happen. I don't know, but I don't think they want to risk Seth getting further injured between now and WrestleMania by having to wrestle ahead of time. And I believe they were saying that he'll be ready for WrestleMania. So let's get into the main two events. The Elimination Chamber women's match: Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair versus Liv Morgan versus Tiffany Stratton versus Naomi versus Raquel Rodriguez, who got the last spot this past Monday on Raw. Who's your favorite to win that one? Stacked card, by the way.
You mentioned it. But yeah, it really is a stacked chamber. I'm shocked they left Jade Cargill out of this. I felt like this would have been a perfect time to either start. You mentioned a tag team with Bianca. I think they could do a feud, Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would be a good money dream match. So I was really shocked to see Raquel Rodriguez, but she's been through a lot of health issues and she's been able to come back. So I'm happy for her. But yeah, as soon as we saw Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley stand face to face at the press conference in Vegas a few weeks ago, I was like, okay, that's your match. Like, you just spoiled that giveaway. Yeah. So I was like, why'd you do that? You know, like there's no shot.
Months too. Yeah. Backstage. They've been teasing that potential really for the past year. They've been teasing that whenever they run across each other backstage, they just kind of have to stare down or whatever. And they'll, I'll see you soon, and I don't need that belt and that kind of stuff going on. So, yeah, they've been saving Becky and Rhea for WrestleMania. WrestleMania is shaping up to be a huge situation for the Judgment Day, to be honest, going into it with what they've got going on. Don't forget, Damian Priest still has that briefcase. So finally, the men's Elimination Chamber. This is one of the more loaded Elimination Chamber matches I can think of. Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton versus Bobby Lashley versus LA Knight versus Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul. Who's your favorite in that matchup?
Yeah, you're mentioning they stack both these Elimination Chamber matches.
Yeah.
I am so happy, but I'm still going back and forth on who wins. So like I don't think it's Bobby Lashley because he's got a thing with Karrion Kross right now. Logan Paul has the United States title. I'm assuming, my hope is it's Logan Paul versus LA Knight for the US title.
That might get set up. That might get set up at this event, actually, since they're both in that match.
Exactly. That leaves Kevin Owens. That leaves Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. And everybody's saying Drew, Des, but if Drew hasn't re-signed with the company, why would you put him in one of your main events at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight title? Especially knowing that Seth is hurt, might need time off, so you're probably putting the title on Drew. Like, you don't put him in that spot unless he's re-signed. So he's either secretly re-signed a contract with WWE, or they're dumb if they put Drew McIntyre in that spot. So I'm honestly thinking Randy Orton, and here's why. Seth Rollins wanted to wrestle Cody in the World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania because Cody beat Seth Rollins a couple years ago at WrestleMania. There's a redemption factor to that. Well, about 9 years ago, Seth Rollins lost to Randy Orton at WrestleMania 31. So
that's right. That RKO that he did where he was going for the curb stomp. And is
that the best RKO?
I think that's the best RKO. Yeah. And that opened that WrestleMania too. So,
So that's why I'm like, I could see Drew, but if Drew wins, he's re-signed and they don't have any worries about it. But Randy Orton, you could easily trust him to beat Seth Rollins clean face-to-face, like handshake afterwards, and then try to figure out who you want the title to go on next after Randy Orton.
I got to admit, having Kevin Owens in this matchup, at first glance, I was like, well, he's there for the big spot. There's going to be a big spot. Kevin Owens typically takes that big spot. But now I'm thinking back over the year, him losing to, because I didn't think he was going to lose to Logan Paul last pay-per-view. I thought they were going to put the U.S. title on him. When he didn't, it made me start thinking, and then they put him in this. Like, would they do Rollins versus Owens at WrestleMania and let Owens become World Heavyweight Champion? Because he's kind of a workhorse. They need somebody like that. He's a babyface at this point. Drew is the likely candidate because of the storyline and what they've been doing. They've really been positioning Drew as like this kind of real type of like he's reacting the way a real person would to the things that have happened to him. Like, he refuses to forgive Jey Uso because of what happened for a year and a half of him getting jumped by the bloodline, which makes complete and total sense. He doesn't trust Jey, which he probably shouldn't. He doesn't care for Rollins. He doesn't care for, like, he's very real in terms of the way his character's been portrayed. And I think that's why he's probably going to end up staying. I can't see him being all elite or anything like that anytime. Like, I don't think we're going to see that graphic pop up anytime soon. But the Seth versus Drew at WrestleMania really do it for you in terms of the main event. Like, I guess. And Drew never really had his time to shine as champ with the actual audience. So I do get that aspect of it as well. Deep down, though, I'd love for it to be Bobby Lashley. To be honest,
you're a big Lashley guy.
I'm a huge Bobby Lashley fan.
Big Lashley.
Like, especially when I'm a Bobby Lashley fan when he has a group, like the way the Hurt Business was originally set up, and the way this one, I don't know what they're not really giving it a name, but they added Fri Feb to it, which I didn't understand either. But whatever, as long as if he has a group with him, then I love Bobby Lashley in that role. And I could see them moving him over to Raw if he won the title. And they could clash with Judgment Day like that. I mean, that kind of works for itself, Then you can do a Bobby Lashley, Damian Priest type of thing, because Damian doesn't really have anybody like that to go up with right now. He's got the case, so I can see that kind of thing happening if they decide to pivot that way. But on the other hand, I just don't know for sure if they want to step away from Drew doing this. It feels like they've already kind of set up the steps for what's going to happen for WrestleMania. It's going to be Seth and Drew. it'll be Rock and Cody. I mean, not Rock, Reigns and Cody. Not sure where The Rock fits in on all this, because they'll be doing something on these nights. Maybe ends up being the special referee or something like that, which would piss off all the Cody crybabies out there if that ends up happening. I will say real quick before we get out of here, everyone's still talking about that Rock promo, that heel promo from a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. A couple things I need addressed that's been going around online. Rock was not, the thing, that was the first time he ever did it. That's all it means. Like, if you go back and watch the Bloodline when Solo first joined or when they kind of first started, they were all over the place with that point. Like, they didn't have it uniform. You could tell somewhere along the line, somebody was like, look, we got to get this figured out. It's the right hand, it's this thing, you put your thumb in, like, so we all look uniform. Nobody said that to The Rock. That's all that was. There wasn't a sign or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is everyone keeps saying he was looking at The Rock when he was saying, I'm going to make sure you're a loser when you come out of WrestleMania. I've watched that scene 5 times. He's not looking at The Rock. He's looking at the hard camera that's on the side over there. Like, if you're The Rock, he's looking over here. It just looks like it in that still frame. He's looking at The Rock, and he's not. So it's like those two things, they're not doing this for The Rock to turn on Reigns at this WrestleMania. I honestly feel like they are going to redo the 2-man power trip storyline that Stone Cold and Triple H did a couple years back with Rock and Roman, where I could see The Rock becoming world heavyweight champion somewhere in the next couple of months, like at Backlash.
Wow.
Like, I could see him challenging whoever comes out of WrestleMania. He goes and gets that belt, and then they go and beat Judgment Day for the tag titles too. And it's Roman with the Universal title, Rock with the world heavyweight title. They're both tag team champs, and they just have all the gold, and they just send out Bloodline to just beat up people, like, for whatever. And then one's going to get jealous of the other, and that's what's going to start the rift. But that's a long story. That's something that goes to WrestleMania 41, and that's better, because by the time we get to 41, Reigns will have already passed Hogan. They're not going to let him keep it long enough to go past what's his name,
Bruno.
Yeah, it's like 2,500 days or something like that. Yeah, he's not gonna. It's like 7 years. Like, he's not gonna be able to get there. But he's close enough to get past Hogan, so they're gonna let him do that. And I think right around SummerSlam, the rift will start, and just over time, it'll be like, well, who's Heyman really aligned with? He's with The Rock, is he with Roman? That kind of thing. Who, maybe Jay comes back, maybe bringing some of these younger Fatus. Like, there's all kinds of ways they can go, but they got a year of storyline they can do with this, with Bloodline. So that's my thought on what's going to end up happening there.
They're so intricate with their storytelling. Like, yes. I'm not even sure, like, if that isn't a sign, or if that was just The Rock being, just complacent or whatever. But I can't wait for Cody to win back-to-back Royal Rumbles and then lose this
it's
year.
Going to happen. Like, everyone's like, oh, he's got to finish his story. What if his story finishes with him losing? Because that could happen too. It's like, it's not guaranteed they're going to give you Cody as champion. They didn't write 3 years of storyline for the Bloodline for it to end with him losing to Cody 200 days short of beating Hogan's record. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The whole Bloodline is designed around Roman Reigns being champ. Like, if you really think about it, like, they haven't had the Bloodline without him being champ, so the whole thing works because he's the champ. So we ran over. I got to get you out of here. Franchise players, we're good for Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Watch Drop the Mic podcast on our YouTube channel, Tobacco Road Sports Radio. You can also hear it throughout the week on tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. And we'll have some announcements coming up here soon about some programming, I think, coming up here real soon regarding Mike, some exciting stuff coming on. So just check us out there. We will see you guys next week.